Alright, so I've let y'all bully me into this. Today I am canning vegetable beef soup. Super easy. I like to have it so I can just open up a can, throw it in the pot, warm it up, cook upon cornbread, and there's a full-blown meal. So with this recipe, it's kind of just like what you want to your likings. I cook a lot like my nanny, and I don't measure nothing. I just do everything to taste. So I don't have an exact recipe. I could give you a guesstimate, but in all honesty, it's how you like it. So I will start off by showing y'all what I put in this. But before I show you, no judgment. I'm a mom to 2 wild boys, and baseball season has started, and between practice and hunting and everything else we got going on, I just don't have much time. So this is what's in it. So first up, you got your ground beef. I've got about 7 pounds right here. And then we've got the petite diced tomatoes. And this is where I don't want y'all to judge me. So we have this pack of frozen vegetables. It is literally called Vegetables for Soup. You can find it at Walmart, Piggly Wiggly, any place like that. I like to add baby lima beans to my soup. I've got some beef broth, and I've got some tomato paste, just in case I need to thicken it up a little bit. And then my all-time favorite recipe, and I practically put it on everything, we got some Dell's seasoning. Of course, you got your pot, and this is what I'm going to let my soup simmer in. It is a Bayou Classic. I got it from Reeves in Clayton. It's 42 quarts. I think it cost me about $60, $70, somewhere in between there. But yeah, we'll get to cooking. I did forget to tell y'all some diced onions. And yes, they're already cut because I can't cut an onion and not cry. And this video is going to be in several parts. So first thing you want to do is, so you're going to brown your hamburger meat. And when I'm cooking this much hamburger meat, I like to add a little bit of water in mine. The water will cook down. Go to part 2. Alright, this is part 2 of me canning my vegetable beef soup. This little tool I got from Walmart, it just helps you grind up your hamburger meat. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is add my seasonings in. Alright, so first I'm going to add in some garlic powder. Then I'm going to add in some onion powder, some Italian seasoning, some of this Kinder's Butcher's All-Purpose. I love this stuff. I put it on everything. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Now all these seasonings are to your liking. Whatever you want, you add. Then we're going to give it a good stir. And turn it up on high and let it cook. And all along you're going to stir your hamburger meat, making sure that seasoning is good and stirred into it. And I'm going to add some onions to my ground beef, and I'm going to cook those with it. So I don't go too crazy with my onions because that soup mix already has onions in it. But I just want to go ahead and get them in here, give it a little bit of flavor to it. Alright. So while your meat is cooking, now is a good time to sanitize your lids and rings. So today I'm canning these in wide mouth quart jars. I don't know how many I'm going to have. But anyways, you can go ahead and get your lids and your rings and get them into a boiling water. I'm going to let them boil for a little while. I sanitize my jars in the dishwasher. I put it on the hottest setting and I run them through a cycle in the dishwasher to make sure they're good and clean. So I'm going to get my lids and rings sanitized. Alright, so I've got my bands and my lids, my rings and my lids boiling. Some people don't sanitize their rings, but I prefer to because you don't know what they've been sitting in a warehouse somewhere. So I got my water boiling. Well, it was. I had to add some more water. You're just going to let them boil in there for a little while just to make sure that they're sanitized. And like I said, some people don't do their rings. Okay, this is part 3 of canning vegetable soup. So I just got this out of the box and it looks like this. The lid is buckled, so that's for sure you do not want to use this lid. They sell the lids and rings individually, so I will just, the ring's still good, but the lid is no longer good, so I'll just go grab one of mine that I've got put up and I'll use that one instead. So once you get your hamburger meat nice and brown, you're going to drain everything off of it. So I'm going to go ahead and drain it off now. So I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Do not drain your hamburger meat down the drain. Be sure when you put it in the colander, you got something catching that grease because it will mess it all up. Don't ask me how I know. Better yet, ask my daddy how I know. So, I got my hamburger drained. And now I'm going to add it to my cooker. Well, not my canner, but my cooker. I got a 42 quart Bayou Classic cooker. I think I already told you that, but so here she is. She's a big one. So I'm going to add my hamburger meat to my cooker. And then I'm going to start adding in my ingredients one by one. And I just kind of know what I want it to look like. It's hard to explain when you don't have the recipe, but I've got some more stuff to add in if I don't think I have enough. Like I buy the diced potatoes in the cans because we really like taters and we don't much care for the peas and carrots, so I don't add any extra of that. But for sure we add extra taters, of course extra tomatoes, and like I said, I love me some baby lima beans. And I usually start by adding in my beef broth first. And I think it's going to take that, probably 2 of those, and those are 32 ounces. So, we'll see. I'll let y'all know how much I add in. Alright, so I did end up adding 2 32 ounces of containers of beef broth. And then I added 4 quarts of water to this. And I also added another 28 ounces of the petite diced tomatoes in as well. And I'm liking the consistency of it. Go to the next part. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're working with right now. I'm going to get it up to a boil, and then I'm going to reduce, and I'm probably going to let it simmer for about an hour, maybe a little less, a little more. I mean, just like I said, it all depends on how much you want it cooked down. I know I'll be able to cook it down when I add it back to the pot to reheat it. And that's a good thing about this. If I get it and I think that I didn't add enough Dales, see, I only added a half a cup because that's all I had. So if I go to reheat it and I don't think that I've had enough Dales, I'll just add it in there. If I don't think it's salty enough, I'll just add it in when I'm reheating it. So that's a good thing about this. But we're going to bring it to a boil and reduce it and let it simmer probably for about an hour. And then I'll add it to my jars and get to canning them. Y'all stick around. Alright, so I've got it boiling. So I'm going to reduce it down to a simmer, and I'm going to let this simmer for about an hour, give or take. You don't ever know with me. So, now you do want to stir this a little bit all along. I don't know what I got on my face, but, you know. So I'm going to stir it a little bit here and there. I got something black all over me. Anyways, what's cooking without getting dirty? So, I'll be back when I get ready to pour my jars. Alright, so I let it cook on low for about an hour. Who knows? Cooked it till I thought it was good. Tasted it. Great. I don't think I'm going to have to do much adding when I reheat this. But now, I'm going to add it to my jars. Got a funnel here. They sell this in a canning kit. You can find them at Walmart. I've seen them at Piggly Wiggly, and I've even seen them at Dollar General. But I'm just going to start funneling my soup out of my pot. And I do keep this just in case I want to dip down in there and get a little bit more juice to put in there. Alright, so this is part 5 of my vegetable soup. And I am filling my jars. So I like to leave about anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch worth of headspace. So about right there to this line, I'll fill it up to. Maybe a little less, probably a little less. So I've got a good bit of vegetables in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my measuring cup and dip down in here and just get some of this good juice and add it in there. So I think that's about good right there. And so you just keep on doing this till all your jars are filled, till you run out of jars. And I will be back for the next step after I get my jars filled. Alright, so I've got my jars filled. I ended up with 12 quarts, and I've got some supper on the stove. I probably could have had about 13 or 14. So now that you got your jars filled, the next thing you do is take a wet wash rag, and you're going to clean the rims of your jar real good. You just want to make sure there ain't no debris on there, so that when you're canning, that this is short of seal. And you're going to do it to every one of them. Just wipe them real good, just the tops of them. Don't dip it in your soup if you can help it. So once you wipe all your rims, the next thing you do is you're going to get some of those sanitized lids and rings. Just pop your lid on there. Grab your ring and screw it finger tight. You don't have to do it no tighter. The canner's going to do all that work for you. So finger tight. And I'll get those lids and rings added, and then we'll be ready to add them to the canner. And I'll be right back once again. Alright, so we're getting to the good part. So I've got my canner here. That's the first thing you're going to have to do if you're going to start doing this. You got to invest in a good canner. And when I say good, I would not recommend a canner like a Presto from Walmart with a rubber seal. I prefer these kind with the locking lids. My brand is an All-American. Go to part 2 or 6, 7, I don't know. Alright, this is the 6th part of canning the vegetable soup. So you got hot jars with hot soup in them. So you gotta remember, when you put your water in to can, you need to warm it up. So I'm gonna add 2 quarts of water and just heat it up in my canner. Get it good and hot, and then I'll do the next step. Alright, so I've got my water heated. Now I'm going to add my grate to the bottom. This is what your cans are going to sit on. So I'm just going to drop it down in there to the canner. Let it kind of sink on down. And then I am going to add my jars. If I'm thinking right, I think I can add 7 quarts of the wide mouth. If I was doing regular mouth, I could get 8 in. So you're just going to take your jars and sit them down in there on this grate. And I'll show you what it looks like here in a few. And that's right, you can get 7 in there. So after you got them in here put on the grate, you can put your lid on. I'll show you what it looks like in here. Alright, that's all 8 in my canner. I'm going to put the lid on. And you're going to notice on the front of this right here, that's your mark that's going to line up with that arrow right there. So when you put it on, you got to be sure to line those marks up. And sometimes it's a little tricky trying to get the lid on. So I'm going to get the lid on just right and I'll be right back. Sometimes you got to hit it, bounce it around. So let me get the lid on. So once you got your lid on, you can now use your little knobs and you start tightening down. Now you don't want to tighten them down all the way just yet. Just get them a little tight. So I did this one, so I'm going to jump over to the other side and do this one. So you're kind of going back and forth. So I'm going to tighten all my knobs. Just finger tight right now. Okay, so I got all my knobs finger tight. So I'm just going to jump here from that one to that one and just tighten them on down. Alright, so this is part 7 of canning vegetable soup. I've got my jars in there, lids on, screwed down, tightened. So now I'm just going to wait for it to come up to heat. So what you're going to look for is this steam coming out. And the steam needs to be rolling pretty good. It needs to be pushing out of the top of that pretty good. And I'm going to show you where it's going to come from. You can see that little knob right there. That's where all your steam's going to come from. And like I said, you're going to want it to be pushing some steam out of it, some pretty good steam. So once it starts pushing steam out of it, you're going to put your jiggler on. So this right here is your jiggler. You can see that it's got 5, 10, and 15, and what that stands for is your 5 pounds, 10 pounds, and 15 pounds. You flip it to the side, it's got little holes on the poundage that you're using. So right there is the 15-pound hole. So when my steam gets good and rolling, I'm going to take this jiggler and I'm going to put the 15 right there and slip that on there and leave it there. And then I'm going to watch my pressure gauge come up to the 15, and that's how I know I've got it on 15 pounds, which it should be cooking on. And in regards to your pressures and your cooking times, there's a lot of different ways to do this. My mother-in-law may say she'd do it another way, but I'm doing it the way my nanny has always taught me. And we're going to cook these. We're going to do 15 pounds at 20 minutes. But like I said, there's other poundages and times to cook on. This is just the way that I do it. Alright, so I don't know if you can tell or not, but I got a pretty good steam coming out from right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jiggler on the 15 hole, you can hear it, and I'm going to just add my jiggler on there. And you're just kind of going to wait. So what I'm waiting for is I'm going to wait for this pressure gauge to get up to 15 pounds. And you kind of want it to stay right there at 15 pounds. So this is going to start jiggling here in a minute. And that's a good thing. Now, if it goes to jiggling too crazy, that probably means that your pressure's too high and you need to come turn your eye down on your stove. So I'm going to keep a watch on my pressure gauge. You can see it's already starting to move to go on up. And I'm going to try to keep it right at 15. So I may have to do some finagling with my oven and my eye. We'll just see. Alright, so we've come up to 15 pounds pressure. I've got my oven eye on high right now. So I'm probably going to have to bring it down a little bit just to keep it right there at the 15 mark. But your jiggler's going to do this. And you want it to do that, but you don't want it to go too crazy. Now, if it gets too hot, it's going to do it really fast and might even concern you a little bit, might scare you a little bit. So, we're wanting to stay right at 15 pounds, so I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. So, hopefully we can stay right out there. So, as soon as your jiggler starts to go in, that's when you're going to start your timer. So, like I said, we're doing this 15 pounds at 20 minutes. So, I've got my timer on my stove started. And like I thought, I did need to turn my oven down a little bit because it is running about 16 pounds worth of pressure. So, I'm just going to knock it on down just a little bit. My sweet spot is usually about 6 on my oven. And now, all ovens are different. It's going to be different. So, you just have to play with that and figure it out. So this is going to pressure for 20 minutes, and you're going to let it cool down completely before you even touch it. So you'll watch your pressure gauge, let your pressure gauge go all the way back down to 0, and then I take my jiggler off after it gets back down to 0, and I let it sit even longer so it can release all the steam. So once it's released all the steam, here is your jar gripper. But anyways, I'll show you, but you just dip it on down in there and clamp your jar at the top of your jar and pull it on out. And I lay a towel down on my kitchen counter and I just sit them on the towel and I let them cool down for basically the rest of the day, but since it's so late, I'll do it for the rest of the night. And there you have it. You've got canned vegetable soup. Really, this is really easy. It's just a little time consuming, but anybody can do it, honestly. So, but maybe, just maybe, I might surprise y'all with a sausage tutorial tomorrow. Well, let me show you this jar gripper thing. A little hard to do this with one hand, but basically all you do is open it with your hand, grip down on it, pull it out. There you go. Hope y'all have enjoyed that and don't mind that I'm a little long-winded.